Hello, my name is Greg and welcome to This Flippin' Furniture. My first video of 2023, I said 2023 is going to be a year of being thankful and giveaways for This Flippin' Furniture. So I have probably 25 board feet of walnut and maple. This is some spalted maple and I need to get rid of it. We're going to be changing over the shop. So I decided I'm going to take that and just build as many hammers as I can. And I'm going to give those away. I don't know exactly how much wood I have. So I don't know exactly how many hammers it's going to be. But it's going to be more than 2. So subscribe to the channel and watch the video to find out what to put in the comments to be eligible for the drawing. If you watched my kitchen island video, I got myself in a little bit of trouble because my wife really liked that island. I gave that away to a subscriber, so Audrey, congratulations. So to redeem myself, I was going to make her another island. I'm cutting the top here, and you've heard me say on this channel multiple times, measure twice and cut once. I did that here, and I still ended up 3/8 of an inch short. I'll show you later in the video how I compensated for that 3/8 of an inch. And not only did I struggle with cutting the top of this kitchen island short, my DeWalt table saw gave out on me, so I went out and purchased a new saw stop table saw, and I'm very excited about that. And for whatever reason, saw stop seems to be a controversial table saw, but I feel a lot more comfortable using the table saw with that emergency brake in there. That's pretty unique. This side does not have dovetails. The outside here does, and then the outside here also does, but this side is painted and the other side is not. So that's an interesting piece that we have. It's a little cold outside, but I really need to get this washed. Just gonna have to do it. You can see how cold it is when we have the cleanest water. Remember the days when you could bend down and not have to use a cushion? And those inside shelves are still in good shape. I might just spruce those up a little bit. I want to make that about 9 inches. We'll do 49 inches, give us some wiggle room. So we're gonna go out and get some walnuts. I think this is walnut. A big crack coming down there. I should be able to cut out around that. Pretty good mantle size right there. And I don't even know with certainty that that's walnut. That would be really close. Let me see if this is walnuts. It's always easiest to tell on the end grain. Okay, this is definitely walnut because it's close enough. It's within 3/4 of an inch, and I can put 1/2 inch edging on that and make up that inch. We're at 96 1/4. We'll see. And these doors appear to be softwood, and these have really fine threads on them, which is typically used for harder woods. It's not as aggressive, so it's less chance of splitting. But I might have to grind that one off. I would really like to reuse these hinges because they're a good fit. Whew. Who would ever guess getting 6 screws out would be the, we've got more to do down here, would be the hardest part. Well, this side being easier. I'm guessing not. And it's, I don't know, maybe 48, 50 degrees. So I got my epoxy heating up just a little bit. So whenever you're mixing this by hand, when you think you're done, you're about halfway there. Scrape the edges and the sides really well, because a lot of that hardener will stay right up on that. We have copper penny. We don't need a lot of any of these. It's not that much epoxy. Gonna put a little mahogany, and I really like the color of this Liberty copper. Let's mix this and see what we get. Well, there we go. I'm gonna add just a little bit more of that mahogany to give it a little bit more of that darker tint. right here, I'm not misting down the top of the table. I just spray right around wherever I'm pouring epoxy, and that just catches the dust and lets it stick to that moisture on the table rather than floating around and landing in that epoxy. So when you start filling these cracks, you never know how deep they're gonna go. And I don't know what it is. Every time I pour epoxy, it seems to be pouring down rain outside. So that's what that background noise is. So I want a little bit of that epoxy to go into those low spots, so when I sand it out, it kind of gives that blackened look. Especially down here, it was really rough down on this end. Okay, this is not a typical way that we might pour epoxy, but I'm okay with that because I want a little bit different look. We'll give those bubbles there time to work to the surface, and we'll come back out and pop those. This is the stone coat, so it's 24-hour epoxy. The look that I want, I don't want it to look brand new, shiny. I'm not even gonna cover it to keep the dust off. I'm gonna give it some time before I do anything else out here, just to let it set up for a little bit. And I don't even think there's enough, probably not even deep enough where I'm worried about the temperature. And let's see, and this here is 64, 65, 67. So I'll monitor it, but it's not a deep pour, not worried really at all. And you see, I got that for $3 at a yard sale. They said it didn't work, it needed a battery. Okay, some of those bubbles have worked their way up towards the top. And you see, I don't know if it comes out on camera, but you can kind of see all these little micro bubbles. I don't know if that's an official term, but it's what I used. I don't care about those because I'm gonna be sanding it down. But it is pretty cool to watch them pop. The thing about sanding epoxy is the thing about sanding epoxy is you need sandpaper, and then it heats up very quickly. So I'm gonna see how we do with this. I'm gonna turn on some music because we're gonna be here a while. I always try to start with the orbital sander. The sheets of sandpaper on that belt sander, they can tear pretty easy and they're fairly expensive, so I knock down the high spots or any sharp areas that might cut that belt sander sandpaper, and once that gets, all those sharp edges are gone, then I jump over to the belt sander. Okay, we've made some progress on this last night. Here I start the long and tedious process of trying to smooth out these grooves in here. I don't know what they cut this with. It doesn't look like a router bit. It almost looks more like a chainsaw. It had some really deep grooves in there. And right here, I think I'm looking up on my phone how not to sand something that needs a lot of sanding done to it. And I didn't find any answers on the internet, so I'm not real certain how helpful that whole internet thing is. So I ended up sanding just those grooves in there for probably an hour and a half. And it all had to be done by hand because I couldn't get my orbital sander in there. And with the Dremel tool, I figured it would cut away too much material. I wanted that just to be as smooth as possible without removing too much material. And here I just froze the frame, and even after an hour and a half of sanding, you can still see those grooves. You've heard me say multiple times on this channel to measure twice and cut once. Well, I did that, but I still ended up cutting this about 3/8 of an inch too short, and it ended up creating a whole lot of problems later on in the video. This always happens, of course, in the middle of a big job, but the gears on my DeWalt table saw quit working. The gears are fine, but this piece here is stripped. So let's have a moment of silence for for the DeWalt table saw. All right, back to the furniture flip. And I apologize, you probably can't see me too well. I just wanted to catch a little bit of this overspray, and I double up these particular liners. They filter really well, but material on the outside, it breaks down pretty quickly, especially if you add any water. So I always try to spray any water that I add right to that middle. Takes a little bit longer to filter the paint, but oh well. Sometimes in life it's kind of nice just to slow down. Come on, man, hurry up. I actually need more just to get it to spray than what I'll actually use. And this is that DeVille Bliss sprayer. I really like it. I keep the PSI at about 55 on the air compressor. Have to get in at a little bit of an angle here to catch the back sides of those, so I think I can do it from there. I have a problem here. There's a couple of things that can be done to fix it. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. So if we look down here, we can see the edge of the top walnut panel. And when I measured and made this, I measured it to here, to the edge of this. I failed to take into account the 1/4 inch backing, and then these are extended out. So like in this case, this piece goes flush with the 1/4 inch. So it's not in line with here. And what it's doing is I can't glue this edge piece on here because it's too long, or these stick out too far. So I'm gonna mark these, and my two options are this. Well, three. I could throw the whole piece away. I could take this, mark it, and, you know, take out that where that'll sit flush on there, which I might do, but what I have to figure out is, do I want this sitting on the top like this, or do I want it hanging down? And I think I want it hanging down just because of the front. If it sits on top, it makes it look a little funny, I think. But I need to get the drawers in just to see. So there's with this sitting down flush, and I don't know if I think I like it up just a little bit. Yeah, definitely do. So that's a bigger problem. Actually, I need that to sit down. So then what I'm going to do, okay, mess that up. So all these have to come off. And what I'm doing here is I just cut that 2x4 to the length, and instead of trying to measure up underneath that table to get the exact height that I wanted, I just planed that 2x4 down, and I just repeatedly come back over to the tables, slid the boards up under there, checked the height, and I probably ran those pieces through the planer. Maybe it'd take maybe 3/8, maybe a 1/2 inch off of those, and got the desired height that I wanted. What I have to navigate here is I want this to slide all the way up. So what needs to happen is I have this lip right here. So I've got a notch out for that. So I'll remove an L shaped out of here, and then that'll allow that to slip up onto here. And then I've got a notch out for this. It's gonna be 1.5 inches on both sides. So right there, got to notch this piece out and this piece. Figure out our spacing here. So what I did here is, this is the outside and this is the outside. So we're not going to cut that groove or that rabbet all the way through. We're going to leave just a little bit so it's a cleaner look on the outside. So that'll be the bottom. So now I have to give this some thought, because I don't want all those different edges exposed. Cutting thin strips on a table saw, it's always good and much safer just to leave that little bit on there, and then it can be sanded down. It holds the wood together. Yeah, I'm gonna like that a whole lot better. The way I decided to do these particular shelves, I wanted the shelves and kind of that front face to be hidden inside of the side grain in there. So I routered out to the line, and then I took my chisel and cleaned up those edges. Since this was going in the face grain, that face grain would give just a little bit. So I ended up with really tight fits in here, and you really can't see any of the joints along that shelf. Okay, we're going to get some of this glue cleaned up. Well, waited a little too long for that. All right, I mentioned in my last video that we are going to be doing some giveaways, and we're going to be doing that here. I'm going to be giving away, I don't know how many hammers. I have probably 20 to 25 board feet of walnut and maple I'm going to be making hammers out of. So if you would like a chance at winning one of those wooden mallets, subscribe to the channel and type in the comments, "You can't see me." The width of that, so it's better if you have smaller hands. So had I not rounded these over, that would have eventually, and it could have split further down if I didn't put these roundovers on there. We have this sanded up to 220. So we're gonna do a little dry fit. I'm not certain. I cut 4. Maybe that'll go. And that's why you always do a dry fit. If I would have had glue in there, I'd have been in trouble. I've always wondered, when you start woodworking, a lot of woodworkers start off building cutting boards or even edge grain cutting boards. Those are relatively simple. But I've always wondered, at what level of expertise can you say I'm a woodworker? And for me, it was when I started drawing up plans, having a cut list, cut the entire project or a good bit of the project, and then assemble it. And it's not falling apart when you're done. So now I have all these pre-cut, and I'm relatively confident, I don't even really give it much thought anymore, that when I go to assemble this, it's going to fit, and it's going to fit right, and look good. Well, that's not going to work. Well, that's not going to work. When I go to assemble this, it's going to fit, and it's going to fit right, and look good. When this is assembled, I can run this through my table saw at the desired width. I know I don't want it that wide. We'll just have to see what that looks like. Oh, I like the gel stain. Typically, I didn't like it on this, especially when it went up against this walnut. So I'm going to try this dark walnut. I'm not certain I like this any better, but I don't think it'll be any worse of a color clash. I'm going to do it all in this dark walnut. Maybe I like it better, I don't know. And don't mind me if you see me breaking out in my killer dance moves. These actually have speakers in them. I forgot I got them for Christmas. We have these little saw marks that I left in there. There's one. I didn't sand them out because my wife likes all those little dents and dings and blemishes that aren't perfect. So in the top's a little bit, I don't know what you call it, distressed maybe, or I didn't bang it up as much as I did that other kitchen island, but it does have some dents and dings to it, and that's going to work out perfect because we're keeping this piece. We're going to use it as a functional island with a cutting board on top, even though it's face grain. I've said before, when I do these pieces, I can always bring them back out here and redo the tops, or if we want a nicer finish, I can just sand it down and put a nicer finish on it. But that's kind of how we like it, so that's how I'm going to keep it. I added a little bit of paint to give me some extra urethane. These drawers were in really good shape. Before I painted these, I just went over them with 400 grits. They got a little dusty out here working, but those are really nice. And you tell me, my wife made me this box, and you'll see it says current project. Why do you think she made that for me? I'll tell you why, because over the years, I've probably asked her no less than 500 times, hey, have you seen those pull knobs? Or have you seen those hinges? Or where's that epoxy I bought? So I come out here one day after work and I seen this little box that said current project. And I asked her, why did you make that? And she said, so you didn't spend so much time looking for stuff. And I said, it had nothing to do with how much time you spent looking for stuff. And I bring that up because I'm getting ready to go in and ask her if she has seen the hinges, which usually I don't ask that way. I usually say, hey, where did you put those hinges I bought? She just came out to the shop and she doesn't know I'm gonna ask her. Hold on a second. What did you do with those hinges I bought? Have you seen them?
No.
I think she smells a rat. Thank you. These aren't really the correct hinges, but I'm hoping they'll work. They should. Think. Okay, we're going to use this furniture finish, the walrus oil. Everything on here is food safe. And since this will be in the kitchen, we want to use a food safe product. Whenever I use this walrus oil, I usually put a real heavy coat on, let it sit for about a day or two, and then go over it with like the Outlaws wax or any type of board butter. That'll give a more of a wax, a hard top to it for kitchen use. And this stuff will really soak in the oil since it's never been sealed before. Okay, we have this thing finished. I always try to shop local when we can. So there's this Real Milk paint company, and this is their clear wax. They manufacture this about 30 minutes from my house in Hohenwald, Tennessee. So similar to the last kitchen island that I did, I wanted to get a smoother consistency on the top of this. So if you ever hear anybody talk about pigtails when sanding, this is what they're talking about. These are the pigtails left by that 60 grit sandpaper that I used. And you know, I left that in there and I didn't sand this smooth or want it to really look nice on the top. I wanted that kind of distressed and aged look. But I wanted to show you what the pigtails look like. So here's that epoxy. There's a little bit right in there. I really like to look when that epoxy stays and the black stays around it. I think it looks really nice. So we're going to take some of this wax and just smooth out the top of this. Smooth it out in the color and consistency. And this wax does a good job. I've used it on a lot of projects. And I sealed this with walrus oil, which is, oh, I don't know, like a, for us, it'd be like a skin moisturizer. It kind of penetrates down into the wood, where these waxes put a hard coating or surface on the top of it. And they do give it a deeper and richer look to the wood. And I'll show you from this angle. As the wax dries and hardens, it'll all dry. Right here's where I stopped. It'll have a much more consistent look to the top of it. There we have it. I'll give that a little while to dry. I like those Nice straight and crisp line on those dovetails. And remember, wherever you are, shop local and support your small businesses in your community. If you'd like a chance to win one of the wooden mallets that I'll be building, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and type in the comments, "You can't see me." And that will give you a chance to win one of the many wooden mallets that I'll be building. Thanks for watching.